It's Danny.
It's Rocky.
And welcome back to Dharma Dudes.
Welcome back to Dharma Dudes. No, yes, no.
So good, so good. Hey everybody, welcome back to Dharma Dudes. Rocky and I get into burnout today, not to be confused with Burning Man, which is two different things, but we talk about burnout.
Yeah, I think it's something that happens to all of us at one point or another, whether you're a teacher or just a human being navigating life in this modern digital age. Sometimes it all starts to pile on and you wonder, do I have what it takes?
Do I? Yeah, no, but it was really interesting too. Before we got into the actual episode itself, we were really, just having an honest conversation with one another about where we're at and how, we're doing the most. And we're like, well, we should probably talk about this for sure, because we're not the only ones going through what we're going through at this point. And I feel like a lot of people don't like to talk about it. So I'm really stoked that we got to talk about burnout and kind of, even maybe help normalize the narrative around it, because it happens and I think it should be talked about.
Yep, I agree.
Hey, Rocky, it's a great way to help out with burnout?
Hose yourself down.
Cry in a hot shower. No, go on a retreat. You got to retreat yourself.
Retreat yourself, y'all, because you know what? You're worth it.
You're worth it. I just can't,
I just don't know of any retreats that are happening, or where should I even go to figure out more about this whole retreat thing you're talking about, Danny?
Well, Rocky, it's so funny that you would say that, because I don't know if you remember, but we're actually hosting a retreat in Mexico.
Mexico? I've never heard of it.
It's Mexico. It's down south.
Oh, yeah. I forget you're multilingual.
It's this new place. It's this new place. But no, yeah, we're going to go, we're hosting our New Year's Eve retreat in Mexico. It's going to be 5 days of Danny and Rocky. We're going to hang out, do some yoga. We're going to do some meditation. We're going to do some chanting. We're going to do some goal stuff. We're going to do some journaling. I'm excited.
We're going to do all the things that it takes to reset our nervous system and refresh our mind and reinvigorate our body and our spirit so that we can enter this new year not just not burnt out, but with an increased capacity to make our dreams reality.
I want that. I'm signing up.
I don't know if there's space for you, Danny, but
well, I hope so.
I'll make an exception.
If you guys want to sign up, you can check out the link below in the show notes, and Rocky and I would love to have you.
Word.
Hey, one last thing, Rocky. You know what really helps the show out?
Dedicating your practice to Dharma Dudes.
And burning some sage while you do it.
Oh, yes.
But also, you could leave a review on iTunes, because when you leave a review on iTunes, it helps the show move up the ranks and it tells people all about it. And although we would love to just do this out of the kindness of our hearts, the show's got to sustain itself. So when you leave a review, it's instant karma points.
And you can exchange those karma points for a keychain, for
Chuck E. Cheese tickets.
Yeah. Dharma Dudes, sponsored by Chuck E. Cheese.
So anyway, leave a review on iTunes. And without further ado, here goes the show.
Drum roll, please. No.
Rocky.
Danny.
Why do you always have to show me up?
Isn't that not how you pronounce your name?
It was a little, the end, you just went a little too high, and it should have been just one octave lower. You know what I mean?
Oh, so it's like, Danny.
Yeah, that's how you say my name.
Okay. And now you feel like we're on equal playing fields?
I mean, you're taller than me, so I don't know if we'll ever be equal. You know what I mean?
Oh, but you're big in spirit and heart.
Oh, thank you. Oh my God, thank you.
You're welcome, Danny. I see you. I mean, I don't literally see you, but I you know what I'm saying? I see you.
But because you're not in front of me though, but like you get me as a person and that kind of stuff like that.
Yeah. Welcome to Dharma Dudes.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. This is a show we're doing.
Remember the show?
So I have really exciting news for everyone listening to the show and you, Rocky. I haven't even told you this. Are you ready? Can I get a drum roll? I upgraded my podcast studio, and by upgrade, I don't know if it's an upgrade or a downgrade, but I'm now sitting on a kitchen floor in my apartment.
What?
Is that good?
That is exciting news. I'm glad I gave you a drum roll for that.
That's I'm literally sandwiched between a stove and a fridge because it's a small studio apartment.
Gosh, Danny.
Let's see what we cook up today.
I love that. I love it, the kitchen. Well, I have exciting news for you and to all the listeners at home. Can I get a drum roll, please?
How do you do a drum roll?
It's a drum roll is nya 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 nya. That's good.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's better. I still don't have a windscreen, but I now have my microphone sitting on 4 10-pound weight plates, so it's closer to my mouth. That's why you can hear the details in my voice and my articulations.
Let's jump in. Should we jump into the show, Rocky?
Let's jump right in. Splish splash.
I'm burnt out. Let's talk about it. I am burnt out. Can I share?
Please, safe space.
Okay. So thank you for acknowledging that safe space. Mm-hmm. I think as teachers, we go through this. Well, there seems to be this cycle for yoga teachers that burnout often happens really fast. You get really excited, you start teaching all the things, and then by the end of it, you notice that you're teaching like 20, 30 things a week, and then you just kind of fry out, right? That's one like path to like the teacher burnout. I feel like that one happens a lot. Mm-hmm. Mine specifically is more like burnout as a human and burnt out in a little bit of everything. And that's not to take away from like my actual teaching right now. Like I'm actually really happy with what I'm doing. I am doing the most in life. And for the first time ever, I actually had to have like a conversation with me and being like, Pomploon, you're doing way too much. Like I mean, for anyone who's ever met me in person and, Rocky can.
Which I haven't actually.
Right. We just pretend.
We have pictures together, but that's
Photoshop.
Mm-hmm.
You could say that like I am one of those people that thrives having a lot going on.
I would definitely say that.
Yeah. And I think, even moving into like this summer was one of the craziest summers I've ever had. I think moving into it, I had a lot that I was, I had 2 festivals back to back. I was celebrating a birthday. I was moving into a new apartment, and then Burning Man is happening. And not only did, I start a camp this year, but I also have an art card that's going out there. And I had this big project I was working on, and it just didn't, what I normally could do, I think I just put one thing way too much, and everything just started to feel like it was crumbling. And now here I am talking with this beautiful nasally voice because I now have a cold because I'm sick. And I think my body is like, you're not going to slow down, so I'm going to make you slow down.
Yep.
Sigh.
Well, I totally relate to all that. And I think, I find that, I spent the summer teaching in Europe, and I always go through a little bit of a kind of culture shock coming back home because I live in Los Angeles, and I find that when I talk to people out here and ask like, how's it going? What are you up to? The typical response is like, oh my God, I'm so busy. I'm doing the most. Like everything is going on right now. It's just crazy. It's almost like that's virtuous. Like that's.
It's because Rocky, you're only talking to me because I'm your only friend.
Is that just you?
Yeah.
Oh, that actually makes a lot of sense. So whenever I talk to my only friend, Danny, right. I get that, it's almost like that just becomes the default response. Like it's rare that I talk to anyone. They're like, oh yeah, everything's going really well. I have lots of free time. Like there's a really great balance between my like work life and my social life. And I mean, it's summer, so people are kind of going on vacation and finding time to play a bit, but then it always seems to come at a bit of a cost, like what you've been putting aside that now you have to catch up on because you've been enjoying yourself. And I find that when I'm in Europe and I talk to people, I don't, not to say that people aren't busy or stressed or experiencing, burnout in their own ways, but I don't hear this kind of like, I'm doing every single possible thing I can be doing almost like as a sign of success. It's almost like that is an indication that things aren't going so well.
Right.
And I find that there's more of a prioritization of efficiency than there is in like an overabundance of work. And I think, for folks like us too, that freelance and that are entrepreneurs and running our own business, it is, there's not an obvious time where we check in and we check out. We have to kind of create those boundaries. And if you're not careful, the to-do list is never ending. So how do you, as a teacher, as a human, strike that balance of when enough is enough and when you need to push pause and take care of yourself?
I think, like one of the things that I was, oftentimes, whatever I speak to in class is definitely something that's happening with me or what's going on. It's, stuff that I need to, hear for myself, and also things that I think the students would find valuable as well. And I talked about how, yoga is this healing space, and how, whether people realize it or not, they're going in there to heal. And sometimes it's physical, my back hurts, so I go to yoga. Sometimes, oftentimes for me, it's my head hurts because I've got all the thoughts flying. And so that's why I go to yoga. And other times it's, my heart hurts, so I'm going to yoga. And what I had realized was, I was telling people all this stuff, and I haven't been to, I hadn't practiced and I hadn't moved and done just even a physical, practice, not to mention like my meditation, my journaling, that I'm it's like my everyday life in 6 days. And that's a big deal. And I kept, my excuse was, I'm moving, I have to do this and I've got to do that. And, I've got to do this and I've got to do that. And I found
what about this? Have you been doing this?
I did a little bit of this, but more of that than
You've
this.
been doing a lot of that.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of that. So, but this is a judgmental free zone, though, right?
Well, it's like this and like that and like this, and that's what I always say.
Got it.
Continue.
And that may not sound like a lot. People go months, people go years, but for me, a part of my self-care, a part of my check-in, a part of my am I Danny, a part of my student first is practicing, is meditating, is journaling, is contemplation, is mantra. It's these practices that really help me dial in and connect. And here I was not doing any of the things because I had overloaded myself, because I wasn't. And granted, timing could be, there's a plethora of excuses. Timing could have been different. If one thing would have been next month, but the truth is, it all happened now, and I said yes to all of it now.
Yeah. And well, I think a lot of what we do is not just as teachers, but as practitioners of yoga is done in an attempt to increase our capacity. We even just in a physical sense, increase our range of motion and our strength and our ability to support ourselves at these increased ranges of motion. And then you link that metaphorically to, what we're doing energetically. It's like increasing our tolerance, like how much stress. And I don't mean stress in I'm so stressed, like overwhelmed stress, but even, when you do a chaturanga, you're putting a certain amount of stress in your shoulders and your core and your wrists. And the more you practice, the more you build up a tolerance to that stress so that you can sustain it. And it's not something that breaks you, but it's something that actually fortifies you. Right. And I see that as being true of all the practices, whether it's pranayama or meditation or asana, that we're working to increase the amount of information, the amount of sensation of force that we can move through our bodies while maintaining equilibrium. Mm-hmm. And I see you as someone for sure that has increased your tolerance and increased your capacity to the point that you can and myself too, that, we can do things that for many people would be overwhelming and overloading. I mean, traveling all over the place and standing in front of a room full of people and facilitating these practices and managing a business, and in your case, organizing a Burning Man camp and being responsible for something like that already is quite overloading and stressful for most. And when you then fall back on the practices and the things that are actually helping you to sustain all of that, then yeah, for sure, it can pile up on you, and you get sick, or you get taxed, or you get, burnt out, as the case may be. So I think it's sort of like the nature of the yoga that also causes us to feel like we can tackle more, but then sometimes in the tackling of more, the yoga that we are doing that allows us to manage all that starts to take a back seat. I hear that, that's always the kind of concern for people that step into the realm of teaching, is not letting their personal practice fall by the wayside because you're showing up for others in a bigger way.
Right. So what are your own personal, either practices or check-in, or what do you do when you feel yourself getting to this point?
Well, sometimes I cry, and sometimes I reach out to other people, other friends that understand, because I think part of it too is a lot of my friends, their description of what I do for a living is that I travel around the world, and I go on vacation for a living and teach people how to relax. So I don't always get a lot of empathy from
exactly what we do. It's a nail right on the head.
Yeah. So it's luxury. So there's not always a profound appreciation for the complexity of what it is, what it is that we do, and what it takes to manage all of it. So having the understanding of other people, friends, colleagues, that at the very least can just say I get it. It happens to all of us. It's okay. Mm-hmm. It goes a long way for me, because I think there is sort of this assumption that everybody else, and I think part of what contributes to the burnout that we experience, at least for me, is how inundated we are, not just as yoga teachers, but as people, with the lives of other people. You go on Instagram and Facebook, or, wherever, and you're seeing kind of the greatest hits of everybody's life. And then, I see my colleagues talking about their personal practice and all the things that they're doing to stay grounded and stable and settled. And if I'm in the midst of some chaos in mind, body, or heart, as you say, then I just feel like we have such an increased opportunity to compare ourselves with others, which can further exacerbate our sense of burnout or failure. Yeah, for sure. So I think, for me, just being honest, first of all, with myself and with others, and recognizing that I'm not alone is a big first step. And, I think it's a good problem to have, where perhaps, in the beginning of my career and for some time throughout, my strategy was to say yes to everything, because you didn't quite know which path was going to lead to success or to greater opportunities. So you kind of spread yourself out pretty thin, and pursue every opportunity. And to be in a place where now we actually have to learn sometimes to say no, and say I actually don't have the bandwidth for that, is a good place to be, but it takes some adjusting. Mm. So I think I'm learning when it's okay to say no to certain things, so that I can say yes to myself.
Oh, Rocky.
Yeah.
That's so sweet.
Thank you.
I kind of find myself being, it's been a lot more recently than before, but just being does this make sense? And does this support the things that I want to do for myself, in life? Mm-hmm. And does it take away from me doing the thing that I love to do? That's what's most important for me right now. Is it going to allow me the time and space to continue to do what I do? And is it going to be in support of that? And some of these small things that I say yes to and continue to do are quite the opposite. They're not going to do any of that. They just pull me away from the thing that I thought was going to be more important. It completely does a backtrack on it.
Yeah.
So it's now like weighing out those options and seeing, what is going to work and what's not going to work. And is it going to, it's, I guess just going back to like, what is it that I'm trying to do more of? And are the other things supporting that?
Well, and I think there's an aspect of achievement and of success, at least for me, more so in my younger years, where I wanted to show myself that I could do it. A lot of the goals that I had for myself as a teacher or as, the other incarnations of my career, various careers, like I wanted to see what I was made of, and to say, some of the kind of pinnacles of achievement that I reached for as a yoga teacher was like, leading teacher trainings or teaching a retreat or teaching at a festival or teaching online. There was a part of me that thought I couldn't do it or thought I wasn't good enough to do that or I didn't have what it takes. And so once you kind of show yourself that you do, then I think something that I find myself faced with, if I'm being honest, is like, well, what is the motivation to continue to do those things once I've shown myself that, yes, I can do it and it is fulfilling, but it's not necessarily a sustainable rhythm to be doing it nonstop or be just kind of maintaining that degree of hustle where you're traveling all the time nonstop and creating content all the time. It's like the part of what pulled me towards wanting to do those things was the mystery of like, is it even possible? And now that answer has been achieved, then sometimes you look at, well, what's actually sustainable long term? I have a friend that moved to Amsterdam, a yoga teacher, opened a studio, has a cute place out there and teaches locally in the community and is, as far as I can tell, very fulfilled and has a much kind of, I don't want to say simpler, but a much quieter lifestyle than he did when he was here, like kind of running around town and trying to do the most. And, I do think there's probably something in both of our constitutions that would likely be a little bit restless or maybe even bored if we were kind of doing the same thing every day and not expanding our reach in the way we are. And so I think striking that balance between following your own inner rhythm and that drive and that ambition that you have, but not so much so that you get burnt out and that you are always kind of chasing achievement, but not actually finding contentment in the moment. Because if I'm honest, like the moments of my life where I feel the most content are not often the moments of kind of elated, over the top achievement. It's usually the quieter, simpler, more grounded moments. Even moments when I'm by myself. I think things like meditation, those practices, I've experienced such joy and fulfillment by myself in a room with my eyes closed that it's like, what is it that pulls us to work hard in the direction of certain things when we've already tasted that fulfillment more autonomously? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's like, why do you keep going for the other thing when you know that this thing over here is just fine? It's just enough.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know that you ever kind of land on it. It's like when life is really quiet, after a while you kind of get bored and you want to stir things up, and then when things get stirred up and they're really dynamic and busy, you kind of want things to settle down a bit. And I think that's just kind of the never-ending nature of this Prakritic world of consequence. Like you just kind of have to swing the pendulum back and forth and enjoy the ride.
But I think getting to the point, where you are actually like in, medical terms, like burnt out, like where, your mental, physical, emotional health all just it starts to suffer, together. I think that's the unhealthy part. And being able to realize like when that's actually happening to you, what to do and how to, take care of yourself when, or even when the signs start to come up, like what do you actually do to take care of yourself there?
Personally, I don't have a great answer for that other than like, if I can't find something to do, even just like taking a nap, like it's not like I have some go-to process that like heals burnout other than rest. I mean, I find that people ask like what my daily yoga practice looks like. I mean, I do a lot of diverse types of movement that for most people probably look like working out. I mean, I lift weights, I do calisthenics, I do yoga poses, I do like mobility work. I think as someone that is teaching a lot of yoga, I find my body going through the motions of a lot of asana practices on a daily basis, even if it's not my personal practice. So when I am at home and I decide to practice yoga asana by myself, it usually looks like restorative. It's usually me on bolsters and props in a room with like classical music on, like doing what I can to calm my nervous system, because I feel like that is the most nourishing thing for me that balances out the rest of my life.
Sure.
Sometimes I even say, like, if I'm, like I just led 5 weeks of teacher training back to back as the only teacher, like my yoga practice on most days looked like not doing yoga. And, it looked like the other aspects of yoga, like pranayama, meditation, journaling, reflection, like things that actually nourish me as opposed to things that ask more of me.
Right.
And I think that for me, that it's a moving target. I've never been the kind of person that's had like, I mean, I've gone through seasons of my life where like I've done the Ashtanga practice, or I've attempted to do the same thing every day, but I've quickly found like nothing else about my life is consistent in that way, that I have to let my practice be adaptive.
I understand.
To meet me where I'm at. But I heard I think it was, I'm quite compelled by Marianne Williamson, who's running for president, and I like a lot of the things she has to say. And someone asked her recently, like, do you find yourself getting burnt out, like on the campaign trail? And she said something to the effect of like, burnout happens when what you're doing is only coming from you. If what you're pulling from is a more if you find yourself sort of answering the call of what needs to be done, and it's not just about you, it's about something bigger than you, then that energy sustains you and fulfills you and nourishes you and energizes you to continue to put in the work. So you might get tired, but you don't get burnt out because you're tapped in and you're inspired to this higher calling. And so sure. I think when I find myself getting burnt out, I do try to check in and say, like, am I really not going with the flow in the sense of like doing what's the easiest thing to do, but am I going with the flow of like what feels like my dharma? Or am I trying to force things? Am I trying to push things in a direction to validate myself or to achieve something that seems unachievable? Or, and I think to me, burnout is a little bit of a sign that I'm not operating in the most efficient way. And so whether it works or not, I tend to just stop and try to course correct and do the things that I know hook me back into my own flow. And sometimes it looks like procrastination. There's like a card, I have like a deck of like, inspirational quotes and stuff. And it said something like, procrastination is a form of intuition.
It's self-care.
Yeah. Well, it's like if the timing doesn't feel right to like push and forge ahead, I oftentimes stop and wait for the timing to feel better. And it can feel a little like excuses. It can feel a little dicey, but it's really hard for me. We were just talking about this like off air. It's hard for me to kind of push things forward if it doesn't feel inspired.
Yeah, I guess sometimes I feel that. And then I also have this worth ethic that's just like, it's got to get done. If I said I was going to do it, I got to do it, Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's different when you have people relying on you and you have commitments. I mean, I don't mean to say like, just throw your hands up in the air and wave them like you just don't care.
That would be crazy.
Yeah, I would never say that. What do you... What do you do? What do you do, Danny, when you find yourself burnt out? Besides get sick and
I developed a bad habit for LaCroix. It's my new favorite thing. And I just drink them nervously until I. No, I think, you know, I know I am one of those people that does really well under, under fire. I love being. I wouldn't say I love doing the most. That's not my favorite, but I love, I love doing what I do. It keeps me active and motivated and whatnot. But I don't think, I've ever really experienced burnout like I have physically right now, and how I have mentally, like where it's not that I was, I put too much on my plate. That was it. I just said yes to too many things and thought I could do them all, and realized for the first time in my life, like, well, I can't actually do all these things at the same time. And
I'm only laughing because you said for the first time in my life. Like, that's amazing to me. You've made it.
This is the first time ever in my life where I've been like, it's too much this time. Like ever, and had it not been for like the move, I would have been okay, because that's, moving is super stressful. Even the excitement, I think few people forget about, of moving is stressful. Yeah. It's stressful on the body. Yeah. So, right now, what it looks like what do I do when I get there? Right now, I'm in the middle of, I still have to, do all the things that I do. I mean, I don't have to, I choose to do all the things that I do. And I'm, running a Burning Man camp. So I'm trying to take some time off while I can to rest and heal, and to, let my cold go away, and, and trying to maybe pass a couple things on that people can really help out. And, like I've really started to, in the last few days, just really lean on a few different people to be like, hey, I need help with this, and this. Because if I don't rest, I'm not going to be able to follow through on any of these things, period. If I'm just sick, I'm going to be sick. So,
yeah. Well, and I think you're probably like me too, in the sense, like if an email is sent to me, I am aware that I have or haven't responded to that email until I have, right. If I tell someone I'm going to reach out to you, by Friday, and I don't, I'm very much aware of that. And yet when I look at the amount of people that kind of on the flip side of that say, oh, I'll get back to you, by Friday, and they don't, I feel like I sometimes hold myself to a more rigorous account than others. It's like, I'm so, it matters so much to me that I follow through on the things that I say I'm going to do, that I've had to learn to perhaps amend my commitments so that I don't constantly feel like I'm disappointing myself or others when I can't reasonably achieve them. But I also realize how forgiving I am of other people if they fall behind on their commitments to me, because I understand. So I guess what I'm saying is, like, I think we're probably people too that hold ourselves to a higher standard than we even expect other people to uphold with us. Right. And, part of self-care, I think for me, is also being realistic with myself and not being, someone said once, like, it's sort of a sign of arrogance to imply that you need to be the only person in the world that's perfect and everybody else is off the hook. Right. And it took me a while to kind of understand that, but I realized, like, recognizing my flaws and giving myself permission to fail sometimes, and understanding that I no one person can do it all, and if you try to, that, like, good on you, but don't be so hard on yourself if you can't. Like, just being gentler with myself, I think, and recognizing in the trajectory of my life, like, really. And not to say I haven't gone through my hardships and my failures and experienced loss and grief and all these things, but everything really does always, the trend is that everything seems to work out, and I do, on a fundamental level, I understand that everything not always will work out, but everything is always working out. You said that to me, earlier today in a text. And I do have a certain level of faith in that is unshakable, even when the details of life seem chaotic. And I think if you can hold on to that, and let the details kind of play out as they will, sometimes the chaos does shake loose opportunities for improvement, or there's lessons in that. And it's not always, the path is not always as stable as we might hope for it to be. But, at least that's what I'm banking on. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, it's being a little bit kinder with ourselves as well.
Yeah.
Rocky, thanks for listening to me talk about me being burner. I don't see. That's just.
What are you thanking me for?
I'm thanking you for thanking me.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Well, thank you for thanking me for thanking you. I mean, thank you.
And then also listening to me hear or say things about burning out. Why the words are hard.
Are you on cold medicine right now?
I am actually.
Oh, okay. There we go. We should say that at the beginning of the episode. I should have taken some too, just for fun. Should have been like cold medicine pals. Well, it's fitting. It's fitting that you would be experiencing burnout in preparation for Burning Man.
Oh God, that word just is triggering right now.
Burning Man is a trigger. Well, you have, for the listeners, if any of you have gone to Burning Man, you understand what it takes to manage and navigate a trip to the playa, but certainly add on top of that, starting a camp, which I had the pleasure of doing some years ago. And it is a lot of work and responsibility and planning and organization. So kudos to you, Danny, for all that you do, on not even including this Burning Man endeavor. So throwing that in the mix, permission to be a little burnt out, and much respect for your capacity, even if it's being tested a little bit at the moment.
Thanks, Rocky. And I feel like we should probably do a Burning Man follow-up episode on the next Dharma Dudes.
Okay. like scorched.
I like Scorched. That's the name of the episode.
Yeah.
Dharma Dudes comes back. Scorched.
Yeah.
Well, until the next Dharma Dudes episode.
Stay calm. Breathe deep. All is well. And if you do, it's okay. You're not alone. Stay off social media for a bit.
Take care. Be kind to yourself.
Be kind, rewind.
This is Rocky and Danny saying peace out.
Peace.